going? Thanks for joining me today for messing with clay. That's what I do. I mess with clay. I'm not an expert or anything. I just like to play. Messing with clay part 4. Really, anybody can do it. I know that in the last couple of sessions about clay, I've kind of tried to give you some rules, to go by to have a successful firing, a successful piece when you're finished with it. Today, I want to, again, I was going to say, what I want to do is I want to kind of give you an idea of how I go about working with clay. I'm best known right now for objects like this. This is not finished by any means. I don't know if you can see the gold one real well, but this is kind of the imagery that I'm working with now. And it's been a very long concept that has been in my head, and I finally decided, well, I'm going to work on this. And so for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been making these what I call amulets. An amulet is kind of a magic thing, a magic object kind of a thing. And so I took that idea and I just kind of ran with it. So I think we have some photographs of some of the finished pieces that you'll be seeing. But today what I'm doing is I'm still working on this big clay piece, and I have built a boat, like a rowboat, that's going to be fashioned on top of this thing. And so, I said a moment ago about it doesn't take a lot of money to do. I paint my clay pieces instead of glazing them. There is a chemical paint that you can put on what's unfired clay, and then once it's fired, you can also add color to it. And what it does is it actually it bakes in and embeds the color into the clay, which is really kind of cool. But I just decided that I don't really want to do that. I work really quickly, and even though working with clay and building things with clay is filled with processes, and it does take time, like, you build a piece, you have to let it dry 3 or 4 or 5 days, that kind of a thing. And then you take it to a place where you can get it fired in the oven. So a lot of artists that work in clay, they have one of those at home, and I just chose not to do the expense or kind of how to learn. So I take it to a great place with people who know me and know what I'm doing, and they really serve me well. So what I do is I just use regular paint to paint these things. One of the things that I do, here's a piece that will eventually go into this thing here. What I'll do is I'll paint in a certain color, and then I will take either a lighter color or a darker color and add water to it. And when I add water to it, what happens is that you create what's called a wash, right? You can create a wash, and what that does is that once it's dry, that wash is transparent. But what it does, it just kind of gives it a little bit more texture and a little bit more interest to the object. So it's just not like this really, really flat color. That's just something that I do. You don't have to do it. I've been working with clay off and on for, I want to say 20 years, maybe 30 years, off and on. But not until just recently it's become like the focus of what I do. It's like the main thing that I do. I've added I've added clay pieces to different mixed media pieces that I'm doing. Here is a head that I'm working on right now. Um, this will end up being on a body that's about that tall. But right now what I'm going to do is just to kind of give you, kind of a heads up on how I approach this. Now this is just a hobby paint. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use an acrylic paint, like people use painting on canvases. It's thick, it has a texture to it, and I kind of really like that, right? And so, just to kind of give you an idea, oh, another thing I was telling you, you don't need really, really expensive brushes or paint or tools. One of the things that I do, and I know that, this may be kind of not cool for, real serious artists, I use cheap brushes. I mean, this is a 50-cent brush at Home Depot or Lowe's. I use them, and when they get real bad, which they get bad real fast, I just toss them and go buy some more. But that's just me. One of the artists that I really love that works in clay a lot, he does a lot more different things too. He uses all kinds of materials, even found objects and stuff. And his name is Weiwei, Weiweai. He's from China, and he's kind of like a major rebel in China. He's been arrested. He's very, very well known. In fact, he is considered one of the great international artists of our time. He's that big. If he wants to have a museum in any major museum on earth, all he has to do is ask, because he's that well known, and his work sells for millions and millions of dollars. So I love that. Getting back to the clay that you use, and this is, and you'll learn this if you ever buy you just some regular firing clay, is that there's a lot of different kinds of clay that you can get. There are two major categories. They have what's called a low fire, which is what I do, which means when this goes into the oven, it is they use a low temperature, but it's real slow. It'll be in the kiln for a long time. And then they have like a high fire clay, like a porcelain. A porcelain is a kind of clay. And the cool thing about porcelain, it's a high fire clay, and you can make it really, really thin. Just really thin stuff out of porcelain. So that's two kinds of things that when you're thinking about buying clay to play with, I would suggest a low fire clay first. So when you go to a place that you can buy fired clay, ask the people there, okay, I'm new at this, I want to try to do this, I want to try to make sculpture, or I want to learn how to throw a pot on a wheel. There's different kinds of clay that you can use that makes it easier for you to do to get what you want to get done. So that's really kind of important, I think. But I just want you to just try this stuff. Keep in mind that human beings have been making stuff with clay for tens of thousands of years. First, they just made pots and stuff to cook in and carry water, but over the course of time, it has become a major, major art form. And I think it's really accessible, meaning even if you don't really know what to do, if you follow just some really simple rules about keeping the walls of the clay of your object, even and thin. You hollow out. If you do these simple things, you can literally make anything. And that's what I want you to try to do. But anyway, thank you for showing up. This kind of maybe gives you an insight of just kind of how I do things a little bit. Everybody does it different. And you can be different, and you can do it too. Until next time, have a good night and peace.